First case, Vesna Vulović. In 1972, a Serbian flight attendant named Vesna Vulović became known for surviving one of the highest recorded falls without a parachute in history. She was working for JAT Yugoslav Airlines and was assigned to Flight 367, which was traveling from Stockholm apart in midair over what is now the Czech Republic. Most of the passengers and crew were killed instantly as the plane disintegrated. Vesna Vulović, however, survived the fall. Reports indicate that she was trapped inside a section of the aircraft fuselage, which remained partially intact as it descended. This section landed on a heavily forested, snow-covered mountainside, which helped absorb the impact. Additionally, a local man who had medical training from World War II found her quickly and provided first aid before emergency services arrived.
She suffered multiple severe injuries, including a fractured skull, broken legs, broken ribs, and spinal injuries that temporarily left her paralyzed. Despite the severity of her condition, she remained alive and was transported to a hospital where she underwent extensive medical treatment. Over time, she made a remarkable recovery. Although she initially experienced paralysis, she eventually regained the ability to walk. Doctors were surprised by her recovery, given the extent of her injuries and the extreme conditions of the fall. Her survival was later officially recognized by the Guinness World Records as the highest fall survived without a parachute. The case has been studied by experts attempting to understand the factors that contributed to her survival, including the position of the fuselage, terrain conditions, and rapid rescue response. Vesna Vulović continued to live a relatively normal life after the Hadisa and became a symbol of survival against extreme odds. Her story remains one of the most extraordinary documented cases of a human surviving a catastrophic aviation disaster.
Second case, Roy Sullivan. Roy Sullivan was an American park ranger who became one of the most unusual survival cases ever recorded, known for being struck by lightning multiple times and surviving each incident. He worked in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia, where his job required him to spend long hours outdoors in forests, mountains, and open areas, often during unpredictable weather conditions. This constant exposure significantly increased his chances of encountering lightning storms. Between 1942 and 1977, Sullivan was officially documented as being struck by lightning 7 different times, a record that was later recognized by Guinness World Records. The first incident occurred in 1942 while he was stationed inside a fire lookout tower. Lightning struck the tower directly, setting it on fire, forcing him to escape quickly. While running away, he was struck, suffering burns to his leg and losing part of his shoe. Years later, in 1969, he experienced another strike while driving his truck. The lightning hit nearby, traveled through the vehicle, and caused him to lose consciousness, leaving visible burns and completely destroying his eyebrows and eyelashes.
In 1970, he was struck again while standing in his yard, which resulted in a shoulder injury. In 1972, another lightning strike hit him while he was working in a ranger station, setting his hair on fire. After this event, he reportedly began carrying water with him at all times to quickly put out flames if it happened again. In 1973, lightning struck him once more while he was walking in the park, affecting his legs and causing further injury. The sixth strike occurred in 1976 while he was checking a campsite, resulting in damage to his ankle. The seventh and final recorded lightning strike happened in 1977 while he was fishing. The lightning hit his chest and stomach, causing serious burns. Shortly after surviving this incident, he was also attacked by a bear while fishing, adding yet another life-threatening event to his record. Despite being struck by lightning 7 times, Sullivan survived every incident and continued living for many years. His case has been studied by scientists and researchers as an extreme example of repeated survival, especially considering that surviving even a single lightning strike is statistically rare. His life demonstrates how environmental exposure, probability, and circumstance can combine to create outcomes that appear almost impossible, yet are fully documented in real life.
Third case, Juliane Koepcke. In 1971, a German-Peruvian teenager named Juliane Koepcke survived one of the most unusual aviation disasters in history. At the age of 17, she was traveling with her mother on Lanza Flight 508, flying over the Amazon rainforest in Peru. The flight took place on December 24, during the rainy season when thunderstorms were common in the region. During the flight, the aircraft entered a severe storm. It was struck by lightning, which caused structural failure in the plane. At an altitude of around 3,000 meters, the aircraft broke apart in mid-air. Passengers were thrown out of the plane as it disintegrated. Juliane Koepcke was still strapped to her seat when she fell from the sky. Despite the extreme fall, she survived the impact. Experts later suggested that several factors may have contributed to her survival, including the dense forest canopy, which helped reduce the force of the fall, and the position of her seat, which may have acted as a form of protection during descent. She regained consciousness on the forest floor, injured but alive. Her injuries included a broken collarbone, a deep cut on her arm, and a concussion. She also had limited vision in one eye due to swelling. Despite these injuries, she was able to move and think clearly.
Juliane had prior knowledge of the rainforest environment, as her parents were zoologists who had worked in the Amazon. Using this knowledge, she made a critical decision. She began to follow a small stream, understanding that water sources often lead to human settlements. For 11 days, she walked through dense jungle terrain, facing extreme conditions such as insects, heat, lack of food, and infection risks. At one point, she found maggots inside her wound and used gasoline from a nearby boat to clean it, which helped prevent serious infection. Eventually, she discovered a small hut used by local loggers. Shortly after, she was found by rescue teams and transported to safety. Out of all the passengers on the flight, she was the only survivor. Her case has been studied extensively in aviation and survival research, focusing on environmental factors, physical resilience, and decision-making in extreme conditions. Juliane Koepcke's survival remains one of the most extraordinary examples of a person surviving both a plane crash and prolonged isolation in a hostile environment.
Fourth case. Tsutomu Yamaguchi. In 1945, a Japanese engineer named Tsutomu Yamaguchi became one of the very few people officially recognized as having survived both atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the time, he was working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and had been temporarily assigned to Hiroshima for a business trip. On August 6, 1945, Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima when the first atomic bomb was dropped. He was approximately 3 kilometers away from the explosion's epicenter. The blast caused severe burns to his upper body, temporarily blinded him, and ruptured his eardrums. Despite these injuries, he remained conscious and was able to find shelter. After receiving basic medical treatment, he made the decision to return to his home city of Nagasaki. The following day, he traveled by train despite his injuries and arrived in Nagasaki. On August 9th, he reported to his workplace to describe what he had experienced in Hiroshima. During this meeting, the second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Once again, Yamaguchi was exposed to the effects of a nuclear explosion. Although he was indoors at the time, which reduced the impact, he still experienced additional injuries from the blast.
Despite surviving 2 nuclear explosions within 3 days, he continued to live. In the weeks that followed, he suffered from radiation sickness, including hair loss, fever, and weakness. His wife and child, who were also in Nagasaki during the bombing, survived as well, although they experienced health effects from radiation exposure. Over time, Yamaguchi recovered sufficiently to resume a normal life. He later became an advocate for nuclear disarmament, speaking publicly about his experiences to raise awareness about the consequences of atomic warfare. In 2009, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a double hibakusha, meaning a person affected by both atomic bombings. His case is one of the most well-documented examples of human survival under extreme conditions involving nuclear exposure. Researchers and historians have studied his experience to better understand the immediate and long-term effects of atomic radiation on the human body. Tsutomu Yamaguchi's survival highlights the role of timing, location, and environmental factors in life-threatening events, making his story one of the most remarkable survival cases in modern history.
Fifth case. Frane Selak. Frane Selak, a Croatian music teacher, is often described as one of the luckiest or most unusual survival cases in modern history. Over several decades, he reportedly survived a series of life-threatening accidents, many of which would normally be fatal. His case is widely known due to the number of separate incidents he experienced. The first major incident occurred in 1962 when Selak was traveling by train. The train derailed and fell into an icy river. Several passengers died, but Selak managed to escape with relatively minor injuries, including a broken arm and hypothermia. This was the beginning of a sequence of unusual survival events. In 1963, he was involved in a plane incident. According to reports, the aircraft experienced a malfunction and Selak was thrown from the plane. He survived the fall by landing in a haystack, while other passengers did not survive. Although details of this event have been debated, it remains part of his widely reported story.
In 1966, he survived a bus accident. The bus he was traveling in skidded off the road and fell into a river. Several people drowned, but Selak again survived with minor injuries. In 1970 and 1973, he experienced two separate car accidents. In one case, his car caught fire and he escaped just before it exploded. In another incident, his vehicle malfunctioned and was forced off the road. He survived both events without major injury. In 1995, Selak was struck by a bus while walking in Zagreb. Despite the impact, he survived. In 1996, he had another serious car accident. While driving on a mountain road, he lost control of his car, which went over a cliff. Selak was thrown from the vehicle and managed to grab onto a tree, while the car fell and exploded below. Despite all these incidents, he continued to live. Later in life, in 2003, he won a national lottery, which added another unusual element to his story. However, he reportedly gave away much of the money. Frane Selak's case is often discussed in terms of probability and coincidence. While some details have been questioned, his story remains one of the most widely known examples of repeated survival in extreme situations. His life illustrates how unpredictable survival can be, and how multiple independent events can create a narrative that appears almost impossible, yet is supported by documented reports.